we have 2 items left, so we are going to keep it fast because we know that Yah has a presentation which many people are anxious to listen to. And also we have the call to action plan. We want to make it clear that some people asked who were those putting together a call to action. This is a potpourri, this is a compilation of requests, suggestions by Southern Cameroonians. We cannot just talk in town hall meetings on WhatsApp forums without somebody doing the work. Otherwise, it just remains talk. And so people went to work to gather these ideas, gather these suggestions, do an analysis of this information coming in, the request, the yearning, of how we can move forward. As Mr. Mofo just said, we cannot be doing the same thing over and over. Groups, politicking, showmanship, politicizing the fighters on the ground and expecting the same different results. So this is what we hope would be born of Southern Cameroonians, by Southern Cameroonians, for Southern Cameroonians. It is a bottom-up approach. It is not a final document. It's a framework put together for a discussion by Southern Cameroonians to come up with a joint solution. So this is just, as I said, a framework. And the first item, what is the reorganization and restructuring of the Southern Cameroons Liberation Struggle Plan? This is a concerted effort by well-meaning Southern Cameroonians to take a frank and honest assessment of the liberation struggle 5 years in, acknowledge strengths, address weaknesses, and root out malfeasance. It is a fact that we have suffered many avoidable and self-inflicted setbacks. Now, I'll just go quickly over this. Now, why is this necessary? Because it behooves any liberation struggle to periodically do a SWOT analysis. It has never been collectively done by the people of Southern Cameroons, despite reports of weaknesses and malfeasance that have multiplied over the last few months. There have been allegations of embezzlement, lack of transparency, lack of accountability, internecine fighting, and fighters not receiving financial support promised them. There have been lies, manipulations, pettiness, and all the ills that have kept us where we are. So what are we looking, or what is this framework setting to do? First, they try to identify some of the strengths. Again, these are from discussions, inputs on different forums, town halls, meetings, different Zoom meetings and webinars. The strengths. So far, we have increased awareness and the desire by an overwhelming majority of Southern Cameroonians for their liberation. There has been a continued desire by many Southern Cameroonians to continue the armed struggle. The overwhelming majority think that we need to keep pushing forward, moving forward. There has been financial and material support. For 5 years, the numbers may have dwindled, but some people have stayed committed to supporting, and the financial support has been coming in. There has been increased internationalization of our struggle. The growing fatigue, and there is growing fatigue and demoralization of the enemy's soldiers. Yes, we know that some soldiers have defected. We know that their morale is low. We know that they are demoralized. And we know that many of them do not want to go to the front. And the last strength, there is growing unity amongst our freedom fighters. That is something we need to hail and support. Now, what are some of the weaknesses? There is lack of a clear and operational plan adhered to by the different factions. That we know as a fact. There has been infiltration and fifth columnists who seek to derail our liberation struggle. There has been sectionalism instead of ecumenical loyalties. There has been opportunism by some civilians and fighters who drive division. There is misinformation, there is manipulation. There is lack of transparency and accountability. There is lack of a coherent communication message and strategy. There is lack of a coherent political and mobilization campaign of Southern Cameroonians. There is growing apathy fueled by posturing, gamesmanship, and infighting. There is dwindling financial support. There is lack of revolutionary discipline. And there is continued politicization of the freedom fighters. People say they own fighters, and the fighters fight for them. What are the opportunities? We can rebuild and remobilize our grassroots supports by presenting a clearer and more comprehensive plan for 2022 and moving forward. We can categorize and streamline areas of operation to avoid a single point of failure. Case in point, we have one of the groups that has collapsed, for lack of a better term. Now, if we had put all our efforts into one group or one single point of failure, then this struggle will be over by now. So we need to do this decoupling of functions. We need to define the essential operational areas and structures around the grassroots mobilization. We need to ensure separation of roles while providing for periodic consultations to ensure coherence. We need to include built-in independent checks and balances in the various structures. There needs to be we need to define a clear and coherent message adapted to each category in its functions. We need to ensure greater grassroots unity among civilians and fighters. We need to increase intel gatherings of the enemy and exploit growing weaknesses within their ranks. We need to intensify the internationalization of our liberation struggle, as the SCA is proposing to do March 5th. Now, what are some of the threats? Some people have said threats are mostly external, threats are internal. We are going to discuss those. Some of the threats are unnecessary delays in achieving our quest, which will come at the cost of lives and properties the more this continues. Unnecessary depleting of resources, including financial support. Further infiltration and weakening of our resolve. Growing apathy and frustration. Loss of international attention drawn by other global events. We see now that the world is turning to Russia and Ukraine and less to Africa. Loss of international attention caused by our internal strife, as we will hear when Yia does her presentation. Loss of focus on the goal and increased criminality, not the least of which is kidnapping. We are seeing that on the ground. So, the preliminary corrective action and vision of the reorganization and restructuring. First, humanitarian. Southern Cameroon civil society with one port focuses on humanitarian support for IDPs. We have seen that pillar. They have presented today, and they have been doing that for 1 year plus. The suggestion for defense as another pillar, the Southern Cameroon's War Relief Fund, with a one pot focuses on supporting our freedom fighters without regard to political affiliation. The WRF or the SCWRF, the People's Fund, will interface directly with the Commander's House and cut out non-accountable political intermediaries. The idea being that if we as Southern Cameroonians have one central depository for our financial support, that central depository is going to interface with the Commander's House, which is like the unity force across Southern Cameroons. That will enable money to go directly to the fighters. There will be accountability, and it will also force the fighters to come together, knowing that they have to come together to get our support. Diplomacy. The Southern Cameroon's Diplomatic Advocacy Group will focus on diplomatic action and relationships, design, strategize, and deploy diplomatic campaigns and messaging towards the international audience. The next pillar will be communication. Southern Cameroons Communication Group focuses on domestic and international messaging and communication. They will develop a strategic deployment plan. The Southern Cameroons Communication Group will liaise with other structures, gather updates on activities, and jointly formulate news dispatches which will be disseminated by the Southern Cameroons Communication Group. However, the different structures will maintain the latitude of putting their own statements as they see fit, also in consultation with that communication group. Now, in conclusion, these foundational structures will not be the only structures for our reorganization. Additional structures will be dedicated to as the struggle evolves. It is feasible that a constitutional and legal arm will focus on a blueprint constitution that would fulfill the liberation aspirations of the people of Southern Cameroons. As we're going to hear again from Yaspepa, we don't have to wait till independence. We have to start working on what we want and what we are looking forward to. If we do not start working on a constitution, in the end, the Western powers will want to impose a constitution on us. So we need to get a group that would, our legal and political minds, political science minds, to start working on that. It is important that the new structure maintains separate operational spheres and focus on their domains. Again, that will reduce the single point of failure, and it would help people to stay in their lanes. This will enhance their competencies, reduce distractions, and not task them too much. Most importantly, as we have learned from the demise of political groups and governments, such decoupling will prevent a single point of failure in our liberation struggle. It is also worth noting that such devolution will elicit greater grassroots participation as these structures will operate closer to the people. There will be periodic quarterly reporting and engagement of the people of Southern Cameroons, and the specter of personality cult, chronism, surrogacy, and pay-to-play will be a thing of the past. Our struggle will be transformed into, will no longer be transformed into an investment for a return at a future date, as we now experience. So that is a quick summary. I don't want to take too much time. Just open it for discussion. Again, it is not a final document. It is just suggestions by Southern Cameroonians. And I would call on any member of the Secretariat or people or any of the people in this meeting who have questions or want to make suggestions.
Hey, Edmond, just at least give a little bit more perspective in a minute or so, so people get what this is. There is a famous quote by one of the foremost generals in war who tells you that no plan actually survived the first contact with the enemy. And if you have to win the war, you need to constantly adopt your plan and your strategy. And I think that a lot of the people out there, there's some people out there who think that whatever structures that they have or have been created in the past, that they've had these structures, and then most people will tell you, maybe we should go and fix this structure, we should go and fix that structure, or maybe actually even, persist, and as if to say, you should not believe your lying eyes. And Ambazonians have just come to realize that these are the things that if we have to win, we have to constantly shift and adapt. And so the things that we're doing here today, starting here today, is an event. But what would get us there is it's an event, but what will get us there is a process. And so we are starting, this event is the start of a process. No way, any way, in any shape, a somewhat of trying to impose an idea on the people. So people should really feel free to get all of this, shred it as you might want, make the suggestions out there. And the thing that actually separates us from our enemies, I always say, is our ability to be able to deliberate like this. So at the end of the day, we would have situations where the people who are doing the right people task, the most qualified people would be able to work for the good of Ambazonia. One has got to only look at in the early days, there was a structure, for instance, that was called the ASC. That was a military structure that was made up of a lot of the people, everybody inside there, most people in there who were driving that force were people who had been in combat themselves. So it was easier for them to be able to advise our people. Here come people who come in now, and then you find people who are destitute of military knowledge and trying to tell combat folks what to do, and they took over, and all of us know what the results are. So again, just to make sure that we understand that, and then maybe listen to the people, and let's work on this ideas together as Southern Cameroonians, begin to put that whole practice into what we have been saying, our mission, into practice right now, by being able to disagree without being violently disagreeable. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Edmond. There is a hand up, Raisa. Raisa, before you come in, yes, I want to echo what Dr. Edmond said. This is not a document. This is a framework for us as Southern Cameroonians to see what we can do. This framework calls for committed Southern Cameroonians, as we see with the civil society network, for people to commit themselves to say, okay, I want to focus on the humanitarian. I want to focus on the War Relief Fund, which is defense. I want to focus on communication. I want to focus on diplomacy. I want to be part of the legal and political team working on maybe a constitution, form of government, and stuff like that. So it is not a document. It is an effort to bring us to streamline and get our people to focus. It is an effort where we have found the biggest problem has been donations for our defense, money being siphoned, embezzled, people politicizing and distracting the fighters instead of focusing. We want Southern Cameroonians to rally around the one pot. It worked with civil society. It can work with defense. It can work with all the other main pillars of this revolution. So, Raisa, go ahead. Your hand is up. Then we'll come to Comrade Valentine. Go ahead, Raisa.
Right. Thank you, Comrade Atto, and I want to thank the Southern Cameroonian community, all of us, for coming up with this initiative. I think it's about time. I think one of the issues as well has been that we were so desperate and so emotional to see maybe a free homeland, and we forget to take stock, and we were just going. And personally, I would say that's no fault of ours, because we've never been in this situation before. We are learning, but again, we should raise our hands up when we go, and then maybe the SADNAF is saying turn around, you've reached a dead end, and then we keep pushing instead of turning around. And therefore, this is the time, 2022. Personally, I would say God has been faithful in this revolution, because this year, despite all the prayers and things, he's actually revealing things, and he's taking stock of the revolution. And I think that he is the one leading this, that we should be here. And it's time for us to put our head together. But again, my question or maybe query would be, diaspora has tried this top-bottom approach for 5 years, and it has failed, and failed woefully. And we all, to an extent, are to be blamed. And right now, any restructuring or SWOT analysis, should be tabled. And I understand that there is a lot of work going on at the background, where this is tabled to the grassroots, the people that matter, the people in that territory that are dying, that have not been able, to eat, that faces gunshot, every day. They are the ones that matters, because we are here just to support. And I'm glad that this consultation is going on. And personally, I don't want to say much, because I would be waiting for Ground Zero to table their feedback before I make a suggestion, because there is no need for diaspora to keep saying we are doing A, B, C, D, and doing nothing, instead just causing chaos. Because in the days of consortium, they were able to talk in one voice because they carry the people along. I will repeat this, they always carry the people along. And I believe some of them that started it were here, they were able to go to the market and talk to the buyer and seller. What do you think? What is your idea? How can we make education better and stuff like that? And they were the one giving them that push. And this time around, I plead and I beg that we should get that push from ground zero, the community, the freedom fighters. If they can carry guns and say they're fighting, then I believe what is finance that we think that we are better off in the diaspora to manage it, and they cannot manage it. Are we mad, or are we? I don't know. I don't know what to think, but I think that if they can carry guns, do what they are doing, protecting the vulnerable in the community, then they can manage finance. And if anybody think otherwise, then they should tell me why they think they cannot do that. And I think that they should manage everything. And then all these middlemen and all of that, they are the one going on the ground wherever they are going to get their things. And therefore they know what they need. They know where they can get it from. And it's not somebody sitting 10,000 miles telling them, go and do this, go and do this. That era is over, and I want ground zero. And the community, the women, the children, the freedom fighters to take this and come up with a way forward. And when they do, we always support them for them. But diaspora implementing anything, that era is over.
Yes, thank you, Comrade Raisa. I will just remind those with their hands up, if you are not in an embarrassing environment or uncomfortable environment, please turn on your camera because we are being broadcast on SCBC TV. Yes, to your point, Raisa, this idea is on ground zero. It is separate from the fighters are also happen to have been working on their own unity force plan across the territory. And they've made us understand that they will not be coming forward until we are done with what we have, they are done with what they have, and then we will sit down as Southern Cameroonians. They would bring their proposals, we would have rounded this up, and then we are going to mesh them into one. But when they are not ready to come in and be part of the making of this document, that's why we are presenting it to Southern Cameroonians. Let us, especially those in the diaspora, put our heads together. Ground Zero is not waiting for us. They are moving forward, but they are willing to sit with us and see how we can mesh our efforts. So I thought I should point that out. Thank you, Comrade Raisa. Comrade Valentine, your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bato.
Yeah, if you can turn on your camera, if you're okay. If not, that's fine.
No, I'm not comfortable at the moment where I am now.
Okay, yes. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for your effort, endless effort. I want to thank Southern Cameroonians for coming in, and I will say that document is a very useful document. It's a framework, it sounds skeletal, but we need to put some flesh on that document. Where I raise my concerns is the area of consultation. It is very difficult. I don't know why it's so difficult to consult with Southern Cameroonians to understand that we have to come together. But the document that's raised a lot of the problems that we are facing and the solutions. But how to get to the solution is a problem. It is difficult for our people to be selfless. Southern Cameroonians are so, how will I say, selfish. They don't want to work together. How do we bridge these gaps? How do we go about this consultation to meet up with the target? That is my question.
That is a very go ahead. Was somebody going to say something?
No,
answer that question.
Me. No, it was me.
I mean, we're in an open discussion. Yes. So if somebody wants to chime in, please, we'll just open it today for open discussions. Anybody can chime in. Go ahead, Edmund.
One of the things I want to say is it's a human phenomenon. Let's just understand that. It's not Southern Cameroons. The Southern Cameroonians I know are absolutely people really, they are generous. People would do the right thing. And people always want what is best for them, but they are often deceived. But they may be sometimes deceived. And I just want us to remind us that while we are at war, whatever we are doing here in terms of the consultation, we don't want to make good be the enemy of perfect. We have to make sure that as we do the things that we are doing, we're reflecting, we are acting, but we must continue to prosecute the war. So that what I would really like us to actually understand is we will not wait for a perfect document or a perfect group in order to, because if we do that, then the enemy is not waiting. We would, by the time we get a perfect document, there may be no nation there for us to actually even defend, because we might have been defeated. So let's please get that and see what we see. The other thing I want to make mention is that we're thinking about how can diaspora organize itself in order to bring the resources that diaspora has to the people on ground zero, to allow the people on ground zero do the things that they do without diaspora then imposing their views, on the ground. I think this is, for me, the critical thing that people need to really focus on and ask the question: how can we make sure that whatever we contribute from outside, whoever is leading and making those decisions from outside, they are not counterproductive. So please, let us just focus on getting solution proposals, realizing that we don't have, if you're building a plane in plane flight, and you can't stop, because if you're in the air, so if you're in the air, the plane would collapse. So, but then if you don't build it, the plane would become faulty and collapse. So I just wanted to make that so that we reorganize the way that we're thinking about it. And this will be something that we'll be debating or we'll be discussing over and over. And there will be more sensitive issues that may not even be raised and discussed here on the public platform. The very important things, please, let's do this so that we don't keep throwing back and forth words without really coming up with something that would be workable and implementable.
Thank you, Dr. Edmond. One thing we want to avoid is to make this a final document. Thank you, Comrade Valentine, for endorsing this framework. We really want people to take it away today, work on it, and then when we come back, maybe through directly to the Secretariat or the Town Hall WhatsApp group, or however we could reach. There are more people. This is not being done by the Secretariat. There are other Southern Cameroonians who were consulted, who gave ideas. This document went out. It is a document by the people, for the people. They may have asked us to handle the presentation and bring it to the Town Hall, but it is by no means a Secretariat-only initiative. It's a Southern Cameroons thing. We want this for all of us. Dr. Zama Isaac, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Atto, and good morning, everybody, and good evening to people out on Ground Zero and Ground One. The suggestion that I wanted to make concerns people who are here in the US. And the suggestion I wanted to make is that election season is around the corner, and we have to think about getting ourselves out there in getting involved or volunteering in these upcoming elections that are coming up in next year or so. So there is also the TPS the TPS thing that is making the rounds. That is a very, very important, that's something very, very important for our struggle. So, I wanted to suggest that we should think about forming or creating our own APAC. Like we have, we have other countries that have their own lobbying organizations. Ours can be, can be a two-point agenda. One, for seeing how that particular APAC can organize Southern Cameroonians in the US to volunteer for the various local congressional elections, and see how we can push to get the TPS. The TPS is a very, very important tool for our struggle, because once the US government designates Cameroon as a risky area, and that or once they grant us TPS, then the international community, either the UN or whatever, can then use that to request a fact-finding mission and things like that. So this TPS thing has a very, very important role to play. So my suggestion is, however we do it, I don't know, but we should really consider creating a group in the United States that will coordinate, these two activities. We shouldn't just leave it in the air. There have to be people who can take that up and organize people, whether in the various counties or in the various states, to ensure that, there are people actually going out to volunteer, for congressional elections and things like that. That way we know firsthand the people who are going to be in power next year, and that would, give us a way to get our, our struggle, in front of the people who really matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zama. Yes, what you say is important, but we were trying to build, around a plan to action. Maybe those who are in the diplomatic sphere of what, Southern Cameroonians are yearning for now, put together something that would help us. Because if we keep saying these things, but we don't have structures to guide, the evolution of what we come to the town hall or what we discuss on other forums, then as we've done for the past couple of years, we will just be talking and then nothing is moving. But your point is well taken, and I hope that we are able to get structures that can organize these manifestations, as you said. Comrade Anasta, go ahead. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Comrade Ato. Sorry, I had some challenges. I hope.
Oh no, that's fine. We did well.
Okay, good. Thank you. I just have a question. If the question is already asked, then please just ignore. I wanted to know if every one of us in the town hall now, what ideas do we have to make this plan of action, this action that we are trying to present today, to work? Because we know that the question will be, how legitimate are you to make such a proposal? How is that not affecting other platforms that have been put together to reorganize a revolution, let's say like the CDN? How is that, how are we going to make it work? What are the ideas that we can use to build on so that what we are trying to organize makes sense? I mean, it's not to the town hall people, to every other person on the platform now. If people have some ideas that it can, we can start thinking on how to make it work out. Yeah.
Thank you. That's fine, because yes, there are going to be people who don't see any use for reorganizing ourselves. There are some people who are stuck with what they are doing and feel that the problem is Southern Cameroonians are not jumping on board. If you have a structure and people are not jumping on board, the first thing you have to ask yourself is, why is my tent shrinking instead of growing? Every group out there is shrinking. There is no group out there that would give you numbers, that can give you concrete numbers to say that in 2016, we were this many, in 2017, we are here, in 2022, we have grown X percent, 20, 30%. No, they would all tell you membership has dropped, meeting attendance have dropped, financial support is dropping, we are seeing the desperation, we know it. And that's why, like Mr. Mofo said, for us to keep doing the same thing and questioning an effort to see how we can re-energize, remobilize. To me, it's just people who have refused to acknowledge that we have a problem, and they think that we should just keep knocking our heads against the wall and somehow we are going to break concrete. Yes, I think that what's your point, man? Understand we need to reflect on how to make it work. Before we come to Comrade Vivian Ayafo, I just want to let people know that I have posted the link to the document on the forum. I think we would also post it in our Facebook link so that people can go and download the document, look at it, add to it, and send comments back to us. Comrade Vivian, go ahead.
Can everyone hear me, please?
Yes, if you can speak a bit louder, we hear you, but your voice is a bit low.
Okay, how about now?
Yes, it's much better. Are you in an environment where you can turn on your camera?
No,
No,
sorry.
okay. All right, I will just put something on the screen. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for giving me the opportunity to talk. I've been listening quite a little bit. I did receive the document that everyone is talking on. I've read it, but I've not given any feedback, and that's because I'm still in reflection while reading that document. But one important aspect that I wanted to mention is the fact that we are at crossroads, whether we agree or we disagree. At the end of the day, we disagree to agree at the end, and we always have to do that respectfully. So first of all, we are at crossroads, and we really need to reflect at this point where we are. We must realize that we are at a point where forgiveness is very important, first of all. So many people have wronged us, and we are not perfect. We've equally wronged so many people as well, either willfully or unwillfully, knowingly or unknowingly. We all are not perfect. I say this because I decided to attend the APP meeting the other day with I don't know whatever they were doing, but it was something in relation to the new president or whatever vice president that they were doing. I decided to log into that meeting because I want to be in the know, right? We all need to be in the know. We shouldn't just go ahead and say, oh, I hate these people. I don't want to hear them. When you make decisions, they have to be informed decisions. You have to know what you're talking about when you go out there and you're saying things. We can't be those people who go out and spread innuendos and propaganda without knowing what they're talking about, without evidence, without facts. So I joined that meeting, and everything, I was sitting there and listening to everything that was said, and I spoke. And when I spoke, it was because I wanted to let them know that Southern Cameroons is for everyone. But we're at a point where everyone owes an apology to Southern Cameroonians, especially to our ground zero. Yes, we in the diaspora owes these people an apology, our people an apology for destroying the struggle, for making a mockery out of it. I told them that they who have offended Siseko Ayutabe owe him an apology. Some didn't agree with me, some screamed and yelled and called me names. I wasn't there to please anyone. I was there to speak truth. Where we start is an apology. Where we're heading to is unity. Unity in purpose. And until we do this, Comrade Atto, until we do this, everyone sitting in this platform, until we realize that we have a common plight, we ain't going nowhere. I've said this over and over and over. Let's open our hearts. Let's open our ears. Let's stay in the know. Let's join these meetings and tell these people exactly what they need to know. I told Comrade Emmanuel and Marianta that the only one difference between them and Dr. Sako is the fact that they have a job and he doesn't. That's the difference. But what's the way forward? Apologies to Southern Cameroonians for not listening to us, who saw this way back in late 2018. We saw it and they refused to see it. Where are we today? We're back to square zero, not even square one. We're worst. And everybody knows that when Siseko was in the driver's seat, that's the reason why they took him in the first place, because they knew that this man was dangerous to La Republique. They took him. And then what did they bring to us? A scammer and a crook. I will end this here. And then I'll go to, I'll fast forward to hashtag TPS for Cameroon. Please, I'm begging and pleading. If you've not signed any petition, the amnesty petition and the hashtag TPS petition, that is on that particular one, there are two. One is from a Cameroon Council or something. And then the other one is a Georgia petition on the Release Them campaign, hashtag Release Them. These petitions are seriously important. Please, they're extremely important. If you haven't signed it, please request for it and sign it. These are the reasons. I know Dr. Zama has already explained quite a lot. I don't know if we followed. I shared a link the other day on Amnesty International on Facebook. We saw how Hispanics and whites came out with a few of our people to champion TPS for Cameroon. It's deadly important that we make sure that Biden approves this document. And one of the reasons why Biden is slowing down on signing this document is because recently, I don't know if we followed it up, there was a criminal, one of us that traveled to Cameroon, ran to Cameroon, who was on the Medicaid fraud, and Cameroon deported that person here. Remember, one US citizen that is deported from any country back to this country means a lot to the US. That might be one of the reasons why Biden is so reluctant to approve TPS, because it has very dangerous repercussions on Cameroon. It declares Cameroon automatically a war-torn zone and an unsafe zone. So please, I don't want to talk too much and overemphasize. Please sign TPS. If foreigners can go out there and champion the cause for us, why not us? If we're sitting here and we haven't signed that document, please. I had the La Republique minister, diplomat, call me when they saw that document. When I forwarded that document, she called me personally and said, I have signed, I will share it because we need to be free. This is a minister and a diplomat under La Republique talking. And she did, because I watched, I looked, I went back to the petition and I saw that she did and shared to other platforms. Please, if we're Southern Cameroonians and true ones, let's work hard. We are not there, but we'll be there. And let's work hard to unite. I don't care who it is. We need unity. Please, I beg from my heart. We've lost too much. I yield. I'm so sorry for talking too much.
Thank you.
So sorry.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you. Comrade Eric, please let us talk about after we finish, after Iya comes up, who is coming up next, we are going to open the floor for other discussions because we are a little bit all over the place. You know, let us finish one thing, and then people go to the next topic, the next issue, so that things are organized. At the end of the day, if we say everything, but if we don't have a program, then people will just leave here confused. What, you know, so let us stay on the document, which is the issue now, and then we're going to open the floor for other matters that concern us, including this TPS and the other diplomatic initiatives that are out there. So I'm going to bring the document back on the screen, and I'm going to request that let us talk about this, and then we can bring other issues later on, so people are not confused about what's going on at the meeting. Comrade Eric, your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Well, and just like you said, we're just more confused because yeah, but I want to applaud those who took the opportunity, the time to do this SWOT analysis, because it's very important. When you are doing a business and then that business is not doing well, you have to do an assessment, come up with SWOT analysis, and then look at your strength, and then you focus on those strengths, build the strength, and where the weaknesses is coming, you have to see how you can overcome those weaknesses, which is what we're doing here. And some of those weaknesses, like you mentioned, there is poor management, funding is dropping. But normally, funding in any revolution drops when the revolution is unfolding. That's why when you begin and people are excited and ready to contribute, you have to invest so that when there's a reduction in contribution, because normally you have fatigue that's going to set in, then the profit or the profit that come from the investment that you invested will now compensate. Given that, based on this SWOT analysis, some of the key things that we need to do, one, in the restructuring, I think the first speaker spoke clearly, giving back power and management to ground zero. One, for every diasporan, we cannot run a war from abroad. Our job is, one, to raise the finance. If we're not doing that, if we think that we can stay here and we are asking that we have fighters and all of that, it's not going to work. So any restructuring, we'll have to give back power to ground one. Our job here in the diaspora is to raise the funds, and then we'll have for diplomacy. The people back there, they can manage, they know where to get the resources, and we just have for transparency. They provide us the feedbacks, how it's going, and how can we structure that? We can go from the county. We have a Southern Cameroon, I don't know, maybe that one it already exists, but in the restructuring that you have here, you need to have a Southern Cameroon Defense Council that maybe is made of 13 members, and each member is coming from those 13 counties, and they are helping to drive the defense structure, and then liaisoning back to the funders to provide resources and feedbacks. And each county, the forces are going, and the forces should be fighting in unison. There's nothing like this group is fighting, it's an ADF, or this is this fight. No, they have to come together and everybody's abide, because the money is coming from one structure through that defense council. And whatever thing that is there to, have other structures that can now be for oversight for those defense council members to ensure that they don't, the power is not being misused like what we've seen. And with that, we're going to see change. The other thing is that in a revolution, I don't think the form of government is important. We need to look into, work with all those guys that are creating presidents and government here and there. They need to come back home and come out with a structure that fit this purpose now. Normally, if you form a government in a revolution, the first thing you should do, you have to get a host country that is going to provide security. And if there's no host country that's going to provide security, then you can't form a government. So that is a mistake that was made from the onset. They were supposed to have a country that is hosting them, that is going to train their fighter, that is going to provide and supply. Because before you go for a revolution, you must have that, and you have a supply line and somebody that trains. Because like now, we talk on the table if that was done. But because that is not there, anything government should be suspended, and we'll have a restoration, maybe a defense council that should run the revolution. And then the diasporans should fund the revolution and push for diplomacy. Also, we talked about, I think Dr. Zama also made a very good point. It's very important. We might think that is not. One of the things that we like, see Israel, for example, anything they say, it is taken very important because they have a strong civil society organization here that they raise money, they have political capital. We don't. We have to go back and have a political capital. We keep talking to ourselves every day. We need to go out to the American people because the American people bring change, not politicians. Politicians are there for their vote, but once the American people start talking, the politician will start listening. So that is something that I said I should bring in here, and we should discuss that, and also to congratulate those who took the time to have this analysis, which is very important. I will have to build from that, and everything that if we take out this, put it seriously, and these are intellectuals. We are intellectuals. We don't allow us who are busy studying, working, and giving money to people who don't even know a clue, and they're there investing the money. And also, any frontline leader who is not coming to a collaborative platform is because that frontline leader has taken this revolution for business. So there should people who are continuing giving their money to these individuals, that is a loss, because if they cease, that's why they don't want to come together. They don't want to unite, because if they unite, the fund that they use to mismanage to go around sleeping in hotels with their girlfriends and do whatever, paying their bills, the money is not going to be there because now they'll be accountable. So any frontline leader who is not part of this is not for Ambazonia, because we cannot be calling for a dialogue with La République for a peaceful resolution, and then we cannot dialogue among ourselves. There's something wrong. So I just want to bring that up, and we can continue. And the leaders, the people who are intellectuals, the people that are selfless, this is an opportunity for us to also see that we are seeing those who will lead Ambazonia in the future. The people that are selfless, I see them, even in communication. You see somebody comes out and makes sense in communication. For example, I would like to listen to someone like Milton Takam. When he sends out message, there's a lot of intellectual aspect in that. There's something that go out, listen to him. But there are other I don't listen because it's a waste of time. And we see people that are selfless, like some of you in the town hall. These are somebody that can give confidence that this person can lead. You don't give leadership to people who don't know anything. So leaders to be selfless, and they have to create goals. When they create goals, they motivate people to achieve that goal. If that is absent in a leader, then that person cannot lead. Thank you.
Thank you, comrade, for that. What you've said is very important, that there is this notion that if you say county, if you say local government, it belongs to one group. One of the groups out there has appropriated the notion of county or local government to them. It is not their property. It belongs to Southern Cameroonians, all of us, because this has to be a grassroots structure, and grassroots means it goes down to the counties, it goes to the local governments. On the screen, I put up the defense section, which is the Southern Cameroons War Relief Fund. There is a platform that has already been created. The rollout is waiting for us as Southern Cameroonians to have a plan. You cannot just roll out a platform without a plan and expect people to put their money there. It will go back to where we were before. But if people from the different counties are willing to be part of the Southern Cameroons War Relief Fund project and focus on defense, we don't need one person trying to be everywhere doing everything. That would be a huge achievement. The idea is to get Southern Cameroonians to take responsibility for our liberation. We cannot just be giving money and then don't want to make time or make the sacrifice and think we can outsource our liberation. We have to get involved. Just like Assimi Goïta has got the Malian people involved in defending their country, in pushing out the French, in taking up the responsibility of running their own affairs. We have to do that. So we are really appealing for Southern Cameroonians to step up and fill in the gaps. Because if we talk here and people don't step up and don't want to take the responsibility, then we are creating a vacuum that this, like Comrade Eric just said, these opportunists will step in and it will be about them. So we have to we have to really accept this responsibility. Again, I posted the link in the chat room so people can download the document and add to it. We have AG, and then we have K. Kimber.
Yes,
AG
once
hand is up.
Yeah, once they make those statements, just let me, like, since I'm a co-host, I can't put on my hands. When they finish, those two people make up statements, let me just react to something and we can move from there. Yep. Yeah,
after that, then we will move on to the next. I think we have explained this, then we will move on to the next part. Then when year is done with the reconstruction plan, we can come back. And then other people who have other subjects, we can talk on the TPS and the diplomacy. Comrade AG, unmute yourself. You have the floor. AG, are you there?
His hand dropped, and then
I lowered the hand because I had called on him. I lowered the hand so that he could unmute himself. AG, unmute yourself. You're muted. Okay, maybe he raised his hand.
There were two hands up. There was another hand up. I'm not sure. Look, did you just lower that other hand or?
No, I lowered only AG. There was another hand up. It was K. K, are you there? Unmute yourself if you're there, K. All right. Maybe they lowered their hands deliberately. I mean, maybe they don't want to speak anymore. If they want to, they'll come back. I have sent them a request to unmute, ask to unmute to both.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Gideon. I greet you now.
Okay, greetings. Salute.
Oh, Massa. I think, say, all the previous speakers don't really talk very well. And I want to talk, say, for people don't suffer enough. And we need to leave that area of just talking and acting. We know what numbers mean, but at the same time, we cannot keep on carrying numbers only with words. We should be able to take action at this point in time. We don't already know Sianse Sakona thief, con man. But a lot of our people, they continue until now. This is the one that they apologize. See what is, I keep talking and say, we overget talk with our life for talk. We no fee ever do anything as a people. We will continue the wait now for the international community to first come for can help with. A number of 100, 200 of us can drive this struggle if we are serious as the boys and girls on the ground defending our land. If we have only 5% of the boys and the girls on the ground, their courage, their determination, their patriotism, 100, 200 of us will be able to take this revolution to where it's supposed to be. My sister Vivian talked on good talk, however, facts. If I'll probably be no say, if they be keep a leader them like Sisiku and Co, who are in jail, if they will leave them for one more year, they would have not been able to withstand. That's why they took him out and brought this con man who has caused so much mayhem, especially on the boys on the ground. We can handle the financial misappropriation that he has done. The one that aches me the worst is the number of people that have died on the ground because of these evil people in the diaspora. Now, my point is, if we cannot take action by putting our money, because that's all of us in the diaspora can do, put our money where our mouths are. We cannot keep on talking and talking and talking and talking every day with all sorts of languages, all sorts of, kind of philosophy, ideas. If we don't have action on the ground, we are wasting our time. Biden or whoever will not do any nonsense for us. We have to put ourselves together, 200, 100, 300. And with our financial power, we can make any difference. I don't like to talk much, but I think we can only do ourselves a favor by putting our money where our mouths are. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Comrade AG. We can do that, but again, we need to have the proper structure. People will not put their money in a vacuum or in a rabbit hole. That's why we are trying to come up with a safeguard so that when people are putting their money, it is going to where it is meant to go. But thank you for that. So Edmond, go ahead, and then we will round up so that we can do the next item.
So a quick few things. I think the core, most important things, the way we want now, how do we depoliticize the military force on the ground? How do we organize them in such a way that they would collaborate rather than antagonize each other? How do we, in terms of communication, how do we sing from the same verse, hymn and verse, so that the communications that we're giving, even common things like vital statistics, are the same? And thirdly, when we're going to do a diplomatic push, how do we ensure that those diplomatic push, anything, the communication that we're giving, the message that we're asking the diplomats, we're making the same ask? For me, these were the key things that we can do now. And I heard somebody talk about the county structures, and which I think really, if you watch and see what is actually happening to this, the so-called IG, the problem is most of the people in those counties, they are all trying to cut those counties. And the reason they are trying to cut those counties is because when some of us actually were engaged in building those counties, we were struggling to make it be what somebody just talked about, which is it didn't really matter who you fight for, or who you affiliated with, but that once you were fighting in that county, but the counties were also making sure that they were collaborating with the others. These people have appropriated those structures, and that is the only reason why they are struggling to actually get legitimacy or support from each of these places. What the counties, if the different people within the different counties can go back to their county and force their counties to dissociate themselves from supporting each one of these, which I will call political parties, that would be one of the things that will be the beginning of the demise of some of this, a lot of this cabal. And just because the beast may be gone, the venom may not be gone. The venom still lives on. And Sako might be gone, and somebody said, but the structure is still that the people who are going to come into those different groups would only continue to cause us grief. So go back to the county and try in your county and make sure that we untether these counties from the politicians, and realign these counties within themselves and actually depoliticize, force them to depoliticize the fighting forces. That might be one of the things that we really would have to get going here in this structure. And then I would just want people should consider this. Sometimes we talk without actually thinking about even just the fighter statistics. Last year, World Remit is reporting we sent down about $1.2 billion. That is official money to Cameroon. And if you think that from the diaspora, that money, 80% of that money would come from North America, where more than 80% of the people who live here are Ambazonian. Ambazonians were responsible for sending out more than probably around $700 million to La Republique. And you think about that money and ask yourself, what is the purpose? How can we be sending that much money? And we also come here, we would hear everybody wants to be a doctor, everybody wants to be called a doctor, and true Ambazonians are very educated out here. And we cannot actually leverage this to free our country. I think a few of us, we are here 65. I want to go back to thinking about how this guy in what's his name in Cuba, Castro said, After he actually would look at, somebody asked him what he would have done differently in the revolution. And he said, instead of starting with the 65 men that he started with, he would have started with 13. I agree with everybody that it is not here talking, but what are we going to do as a people? And let's start with that communication, but let's continue to do communication without the action really doesn't even help us one way. So everybody must have to reflect and go stand at the mirror and say, what are you doing? And let us agree that we're going to act irrespective of what groups we affiliate and force these groups to become political parties. Let them go and declare themselves as political parties and forget about this nonsense of a government. That time has passed. And then we can use that because they're using that when they say government, they want to use it to legitimize their thievery, their stealing and all of that. But once, if they continue, if they label themselves and we label them like political parties belonging to this X, Y, or Z, you deny them that legitimacy or that supposed legitimacy that they impose on themselves. And I think that, to me, those should be some of the things I want to see act as we go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Edmond. Let's just take, please, two more in the interest of time. Let's just take two more. Sikot, Comrade Sikot, you had your hand up, and then Dr. Fontaine. I don't know if I lowered it or if you lowered it. Just unmute yourself. Then let's go to the next part. Then we can come back and continue the discussion. If Comrade Sikot is not there, then Dr. Fontaine, go ahead, and then we'll go to Iya. She's been waiting. Yeah, Comrade Sikot, are you there? Okay, he's not there. Go ahead, Dr. Fontaine, then we'll roll over. We can come back to this discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I think one of the things that we must realize, I've listened to your presentation, which I think addresses the main issues, the key issues, and the burning issues of our liberation struggle, why it is stalling, or why the struggle is struggling. And I think that collectively, we must approach these problems in the manner you have evoked. And it means that when we set out on this kind of expedition, we must be careful, we must be introspective, and also be consultative. I think the best systems that I know about that have succeeded to achieve significant results for their people are those that were based on the bottom-up approach. But for the most part in our liberation struggle, people have been issuing decisions by fiat. For instance, there are times that people declare a lockdown on the 26th without finding out what the 26th is. Probably people have, in Cameroon, most people start collecting their salaries on that 26th. So when you declare lockdown, a 2 weeks lockdown beginning on the 26th, it means that the people are going to spend those 26, have spent 25 days without, have spent 25 days, and then they are going to take another 14 days to that 25 without anything, so we did not envisage the need for them to be able to procure supplies, stock their homes and so on and so forth. So I think that creating a system that will be responsive to the needs of our people, that will eliminate some of the braggadocio that we have been seeing, where people, spend most of their time posturing, issuing decrees, issuing fiats, will really help us. It is not necessarily going to be, because I see some people already saying that, oh, another platform is going to create more confusion and so on and so forth. I think we believe that if people put their heads together and do their work, we will have better results. So before leaving this place, it is good that the town hall set up a working committee of people. I've seen some very knowledgeable women in the house who can be very, very forthcoming when it comes to things like this. And I think for the most part, most of the men have although it is mostly men who have politicized our struggle. So let us see how we can create a committee that will, develop some of the ideas that have been enunciated in this presentation. And then moving forward, the people of Southern Cameroons can come up with something that will draw and involve the people at the grassroots, the refugees. We have seen how the civil society network has done an outstanding, their performance has been outstanding. And I say it without boasting. I have sat on in some of their meetings and seen how they work. I have made my contributions. I have a monthly contribution to the civil society network. And I want to say that every time I see what they do, I feel that I need to add my contribution. So if we could expand, if we could expand the collaboration, the cooperation in a manner that will address the specifics of our liberation struggle and get people to concentrate and stay focused the way the civil society network, for instance, has been focused, I can bet you that we will not have to wait for 3-4 years more before we get home. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fontaine. We hope, as you said, people will step up and want to be part of this, and not just talk and then go away. We really hope that since most Southern Cameroonians, or many, welcome the idea of us revisiting what we are doing, they would answer the call, they would answer the bell and step up. Like I said, we cannot outsource our liberation. It's on us to liberate ourselves. Otherwise, there will be a vacuum and charlatans would fill in the space. But thank you, Dr. Fontaine. So we would come back to this subject before we leave. Comrade K, okay, 1 or 2 minutes, Comrade K, because you've been writing in the chat, and then we'll go to you on the next topic. Go ahead, unmute yourself. Comrade K, can you unmute yourself? Can you unmute? Because if you're speaking, we cannot hear you.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Okay, yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry for the technical glitch. I am in a secluded environment in Canada, so I'm not able to use my video.
Okay.
Yeah, but I am very happy to salute you all and for the effort that we are putting in together to try to bring our struggle back on the right track.
Can you speak louder, please? Your voice is very low.
And I just have some points to note out, which is something that I've been clamoring for a long time. The first aspect that I've noticed about our struggle and why it becomes an impediment to ourselves is because we are looking at our struggle from the political standpoint and not from the point of trying to secure our self-determination. So because
Comrade K,
that we're taking,
Comrade,
it's a lot of tribal politics and grouping in the struggle. So we find ourselves stuck with different groups and camps. So that is something that
it's hard to hear him.
Struggle to eliminate this aspect of creating a government when we don't have a base. Because if we are looking at appointing somebody as a leader or a president and getting a cabinet, which is not actually representative
Comrade,
of the people. Can you hear me?
Your voice is extremely low. We can barely hear you. We cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, it's slightly better. Yes, it's slightly better. Your volume is really low.
Okay, let me try to adjust my... can you hear me now?
Yes, much better. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I was just explaining the approach that we're using in this struggle. So I just noticed over the years that we are actually applying a lot of politics in the struggle, not actually looking at our independence struggle from that perspective. So I have been opposed to this concept of running a government when we don't have a base. And that is exactly the main source of our failure, because right now there's a lot of factions. Nobody knows where we are headed or where we are at. And that is the reason why maybe it's we find the structure like crumbling. And what I noticed from our standpoint in Canada, for example, we have a lot of struggle trying to raise funds. And I believe in a struggle like this, the financial numbers matter. If we cannot raise money, we will not be able to sustain the struggle. And to raise money, we always have to look back on the base. And the base is not responding because of the tribal politics that some people have taken upon themselves to try to manage this struggle. So I'm not in favor of trying to create a government in order to run this organization, this struggle. It's not an organization, it's a struggle. So I would suggest, as you have already, I've been reading the document, and it makes a lot of sense. If we emphasize on the committees, we have committees with different expertise to run, like those who are involved in defense, financial aspects, diplomacy. We have able Cameroonians, Southern Cameroonians, who are able to man these particular committees. So we should be running our struggle on committees who will be reporting back to their various bases. And again, we should try to restructure diaspora. And diaspora has the financial firepower to be able to manage this particular struggle, but we are not able to raise even a dollar. I believe in numbers. If everybody could contribute $5 every month, we have like 10,000 Cameroonians abroad. We should be able to have $500,000 in a month, and if that goes to a year, it will be $6 million. It's just a token that people will not even realize they are contributing. But the problem is, why is it so difficult for Southern Cameroonians to be able to contribute towards the fundraising? It's because we do not have the proper governance structure. We should be looking at our structure from the points of governance. How are we able to build trust back with the people, those who are able to dip their hands into their pockets? So I would encourage our current leadership to discourage that concept of nominating people as presidents or cabinet members. Those things only exist after we've established a country. That is my only appeal. If there is AGF or any other group that is so heartfelt about the struggle, they should dissolve their groups and join the various committees that, if they have expertise in defense, then they should go to that committee and try to see how they can contribute. Because if we are running, I have an example here in Canada. We started a fundraising campaign. It was actually progressive, but at one point in time, it fell out because some people say, well, are we contributing this money to the IG or to the AGF or to this other group? And that is how it broke down. So I would encourage that we try to create some kind of a unified system where we should be able to build confidence with the masses and see how everybody can come on board and be sure that where they are putting their money, they know where it's going and how it's managed for us to succeed. That is what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Comrade K. And I hope that you would stay in touch and be one of the main contacts in Canada, because we need Southern Cameroonians from across the globe. What we really need our people to step up, and I like the efforts which you said you guys are making in Canada, and I would really love to be in touch with you. What I have on the screen, 1 second, Dr. Fontana, I'll come back to you, then we'll go to you after this. What we have on the screen are the different departments, and I challenge anybody to tell me where and how, for example, the civil societies has failed in the way they are running their affairs. We are just asking people to replicate this thing. There is no government in the civil society. There is no president. There is no Secretary of State in the civil society. There is no Secretary of Defense. They are just doing humanitarian work, Donors are giving their money on their website, darkcommunity.com. They raised over 42,000 in 2021. As little, well, let me not use little, but for what it was worth, they put it to work. And there is a check and balance mechanism, and it's working. Unfortunately, to your point, Comrade K, the people who are holding on to groups will not dissolve those groups because they are making a living off of it. Most of them do not work. So what we have to do is, how can we get our people who are feeding those structures to come to the realization that they need to divert somewhere else? But for us to say that we're going to call some of those groups and those executives are going to get up and say that, okay, we are going to dissolve and we are going to join committees, it's not going to happen. So what you're saying is true. And that's why we have these committees. We have the humanitarian, defense, diplomacy, communication, and we're going to have the legal and political, where they can start, working on a form of governance for us back home. But thank you for that point. And again, I would love to be in touch with you. If you want to PM me your number in the chat, or I can send you mine, that's fine.
Okay, I will do that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Comrade K. Dr. Fontaine, before we go to you, were you going to say something? It looks like, or was I mistaken?
I think it was Mandible. There's a hand up. I think it's Mandible.
Okay. Okay, Mandible, go ahead, and then I promise that this is the last one. Then we'll go to you. Mandible.
No. It's just a reflection, but I think what Maya is supposed to say is more important, so I can always come back later on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
What a gentleman.